Hey everybody, it is Kit here. Happy Sunday and welcome back to another crochet slash read along or reading part of Chicago. So I don't know what part we're on now, what number, but we're, well down into it. We're on page 59 if anybody wants to know. And last time we covered the parts where Green and Cooper pretty much figured out that in order to get into the data that they need a second authentication device or a authenticator device for the vampire Lucy Hale's phone. That was recovered by Winters. And where would that device be? That would be at home. That would be at home in the Viper's Nest, i.e. the hotel. Yeah. Whoa! What was that noise? Anyway, sorry, I've got bunches of doggies in my room because it is starting to rain outside, and yeah. It's okay. Just get up there. Get up there. They are not that scary. I don't know which one you are, but it is not that scary. Get up there. What is that noise? What is that noise? Who's making noises? Silly babies. Anyway, so Winters is acting a little weird. A little weird after whatever happened. They're not even sure, to be perfectly honest with you. She was weird before. She's even weirder now. Great question. So she's decided she's going to go into the hotel herself, by herself. And they're like, oh, no, this ain't how, And, Green did a calculated move to basically get in her space, and they had what will affectionately later be known as canoodling in a shadow cocoon by Cooper, but it is not now later. But yeah, so basically they just stepped out of that, and Green has agreed to let her do this. Arguably, logically, she, with how she disappears, probably has the best chance besides them, because how are they going to go into a vampire nest, especially a whole hotel, and get something from one of the vampire's private rooms? Probably not very well. Her doing it, they're not happy with that, but they don't have a lot of options. That's the whole point of this story. They don't have a lot of options. They never had a lot of options, which is kind of how everything has occurred. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day, and let's get into this, shall we? Okay, so Cooper stepped in behind him, head cocked to the side. Do you want to talk about it? He waited, watching his friend stare at the harmless computer screen filled with hacking stuff and other tech mojo like it was a juicy bunny to a vicious tiger. He fought the growing smirk, knowing exactly who Green would rather be taking his ire out on. The question, of course, was why? Whatever happened in that shadow tornado? Y'all were all nice and cozy like canoodlers under a blanket at the movies. Green didn't even spare his friend a glance. Call Lauren. The resulting sharp-pitched whine didn't even manage to clear the fog wrapped around his mind, his being Kieran's, but it did give him the smallest of grins. Why me? Grumbling and groaning, Cooper pulled his phone out of his back pocket anyway, swiping across the cracked screen once more. She's gonna hate me when we get back. Isn't it best to avoid her right now? Just getting your funeral underway, Green reminded him, then physically shook himself, stretching and twisting until loud popping noises were heard just for Cooper's annoyance. Besides, I want to see if Ben is done taking care of himself without rushing him. Yeah, I guess so. Hi, Lauren. How are you? Cooper plastered a sweaty smile on his face putting her on speaker as Green leaned against the bar counter, giving a toothy yawn. Cooper, how may I help you? Lauren Dominic sounded entirely too professional, polite, and awake for nearly 4 a.m. Cooper would swear she was busy planning his demise, but Green could hear the quiet sizzle as some sort of food slid from a hot pan onto a ceramic plate, a clinking noise following as the plate was put onto a countertop. Next, a fridge was opened. Cooper gave Green a panicked, help me look. Green just rubbed his eyes, enjoying his friend's panic. Was it mean? Certainly. Did it help curb the irritating worry churning in his gut? Yes. Cooper cleared his throat, maintaining a polite, cheery tone. Is Dom out of the shower? Has he eaten yet? Softer words followed, his tone shifting lower, just in case Ben could hear. We didn't want to bother him before then, but Green made some new developments, and we could really use some eyes in that hotel. Cooper's tone made it clear that he did not agree with these developments. The fridge was closed, then a cabinet was opened. He just got out of the shower, she whispered into the receiver. Liquid was poured into a glass, then that too was put on a countertop. But he left the cameras up so I can help navigate while he eats. Her tone left no room for negotiation. Her mate would eat. Green rumbled, speaking up. That would be great. Thank you, Lauren. He fought another yawn, much to Cooper's concern. A chair squeaked through the phone. You both sound exhausted. Is everything going all right, Kieran? Concern bled through the cool, professional tone. He could picture her piercing gaze now, as if she was right in front of him. A tall, fierce blonde with stormy gray eyes, hiding a sharp-taloned hawk within. She was one of their oldest friends and greatest allies. Things are not as I was expecting. Or wanting. Cooper met his eyes. We may have gotten in over our heads just a little bit, the coyote added, cringing. Lauren's response was immediate. Do you need backup? No, both replied at the same time. Cooper looked at Green. Green looked back at Cooper. Unspoken understanding flashed between them. No. There would be no backup from the pack. This was to be settled between the two of them. And Winters. Because despite everything, both felt like they could trust her. And it was the darndest feeling. Green sighed. But thank you, Lauren. No, we will be all right. This should wrap up by tomorrow. He might kill Winters if things kept going any later than that. But we met a new associate who just insisted on entering the hotel for that secondary authentication device. Ben needs to help us further. Associate was a nice word for an infuriating woman who may or may not be a fae, who is suicidal and highly dangerous, and we know nothing about her other than weird gut feelings. But Lauren didn't need to know that. Lauren began typing on the keyboard. Alright, is this new associate the one Ben has been checking into? Mm-hmm. Cooper let his frustrations be known with a single noise. Green sighed, sitting at the computer. That's the one, he agreed, watching with narrowing eyes as Lauren pulled up the camera feeds. Upon a cursory glance, he didn't see Winters. A patient man would have said she was still walking down the street to the hotel. That she hadn't quite entered yet, but that she would be soon. Him? Well, the logical part of his brain said she was likely long gone. It was his gut that declared otherwise. Lauren hummed to herself, still clicking away, scanning all the camera feeds. Green's gut churned slowly as he saw just how many guards there were on the top floors, all in black suits and suede shoes. How many were bloodsuckers? How many hired guns? Did they have guns? It was just going to be Winters against that. Fuck. I think I just counted at least 50, Cooper swore, white knuckles gripping the edge of the counter as he peered into the screen. I'm not seeing her yet. What does she look like? Lauren kept clicking through. Sickly, Cooper said seriously. A description, Cooper, if you would please. The elevator just opened by itself? Confusion colored her voice, and suddenly the lobby feed was on full screen. The concierge staff was busy picking up a shattered vase on the floor, not noticing that the elevator was opening and closing with no passengers leaving or boarding. Just before the elevator closed completely, one staff member glanced that way and gestured, clearly confused. Cooper gulped. Uh-oh. Lauren switched to the elevator feed where they watched, transfixed, as the empty elevator was going up and up. It had beautiful mahogany walls and gold rails with a large mirror on the back wall. One that showed different buttons being pressed on the large command console. All for the top 10 floors. Okay, I think I need to make a distinction here. Hang on. Okay. Essentially, the distinction is that nobody appears to be pressing them, like they're not seeing anybody. Okay. Maybe they won't say anything? Oh, Cooper, ever the optimist. Green wasn't like that. He expected the worst, always. And this time, his best friend's cheery, boyish grin couldn't alleviate the intense worry as it spread through Green's system like a plague. They stared, transfixed, as the elevator went up and up and up. Lauren broke the silence, everyone staring at the empty elevator. Oh. Maybe I don't have to make the distinction? I don't know. Okay. So, what does this associate of yours look like? Green kept his eyes on the screen, hoping that she would show up. Short, scraggly blonde hair, blue eyes, a t-shirt that was white at one point, ratty sneakers, and ripped, stained blue jeans. Dirty, was all Cooper added to that description with a wrinkle of his nose. Footsteps echoed through the call connection, Ben's voice picking up through the receiver. Love, do you need help with that? Green's gut tightened at Ben's voice. The low, submissive, but clearly ready to help hopefulness. As if she said yes, then nothing bad would happen. No. Never again. Cooper stiffened beside him, bared teeth flashing in the darkness. They would never let that happen to him again. A soft patting was heard and a sharp scraping of wood sliding across concrete floors. Yes, love, you can sit right here and eat this breakfast I made for you. Okay? Warmth filled her pitch, love assenting her tone. She loved him with everything she had, and in that moment of vulnerability, Green and Cooper got to see the real Lauren, instead of the chief financial officer Dominic or Alpha personas. The one who bought every single child in town what they wanted for Secret Santa. Lauren, who volunteers at the elderly homes every week for bingo. The woman who has 3 different portfolios growing just in case someone needs money for the hospital, or their house burns down, or a car breaks. Lauren, who would drop everything in a heartbeat to be there for those she loves. It made Green's eyes sting, pride and love swelling in his own chest. Cooper bade the quietest sniffle behind his uplifted shirt as he pulled the collar up over his nose. Silence filled the line as the boys didn't dare say a word. There was a heavy, pregnant sort of feeling coloring the atmosphere until Ben cleared his throat quietly, and a quiet scraping could be heard. Again, wood on concrete. Cutlery began scraping against a plate. All right, love. I can do that. A gentle voice nearly overwhelmed by emotion, and another throat clearing before his pitch went back to normal. Good morning, Alpha. Good morning, Cooper. Morning, Ben, the duo echoed together, and just like that it was back to business. Ben ate, Lauren scanned the cameras, and the elevator took what felt like a million years to go up 20 floors. Eventually, the elevator feed flickered, and Green swore he saw a shadow move, but suddenly Winters was right there, leaning against the back wall of the elevator as if she had been there all along. Oh, there she is, Cooper said blankly, blinking once, With the sounds of juice being drunk beside her, Lauren piped up. She looks rather young. With a carefully neutral tone, she zoned the camera in, stopping just before it got super grainy. Just how old is she? Cooper shrugged, looking at Green. Not sure, but appearances are deceiving with Faye. Green nodded, looking at Winter's facial expression, thinking back through their brief interactions. She did seem very young. Something about it didn't sit right with him, but she was either Faye or witch, and Faye made more sense. Are you sure she is Faye, Alpha Green? Ben spoke quietly, the slightest tremor in his pitch. Never be afraid of asking questions, Ben, Green had told him once. Still, that fearful tremor. Green hated it. Hated that it was still there. Patience. Green took his time to respond, thinking through this and keeping his anger in check. He wasn't angry with Ben, but rather the person who did this to Ben. Just because they were dead didn't mean their influence wasn't still around. But as for the question, Green was still stuck on the amount of power Winters had and the lack of witch stench. Not entirely, Dom. Honesty was always the best policy. But she has a large amount of magic, more than many witches I have encountered, and she also doesn't have that scent. They all knew what scent he was referring to. I'm not planning on asking her either. Laura murmured. She looks scared. Everyone squinted at the young woman on the screen. Cold, icy concern washed over Green as he saw her face. Winters was leaning against the back railing, fear clearly etched on her pale skin as her lips pressed into a thin line. Her shoulders moved up and down as she breathed in and out, blowing out short breaths as she clearly worked on calming herself down. Her eyes closed. And for a solid minute, she just breathed. Are we sure this is a good idea? Cooper questioned softly, voicing what Green was quietly thinking. Silence was the quiet companion of everyone. Lingering worry was the caress, fear the spice in the air, tension the undercurrent zipping through everyone's veins. Everyone was questioning what to do, what could be done, what should be done, if anything. The trouble was, none of them could get in there to Winters on time. She was the only one who could go invisible. The boys were strong, but what could a coyote and a tiger do within a vampire den filled with likely hundreds of vampires and their allies? Winters was on her own, whether they wanted it or not. She had known the risk, and she had gone anyway, even fought to go on her own. I am expendable, and you are not. Green wanted to take the frightened young woman in that elevator and pull her away to safety, then shake some sense into her, no matter how long that would take. Oh, this was such a stupid idea, and yet I let her go in there alone. Way to be a fucking leader, Green. Cooper eyed his friend. He knew the worry lines in Green's forehead, the tick of a clenched jaw, his too still, too relaxed fingers in his lap, the slightest movement of his left heel rocking left and right in a too nervous jig. Hey, remember this wasn't all you. She's in pack, he reminded Green. She was insistent on going in by herself, and I don't think anything you or I could have done would have stopped her. She's a force beyond what we can control. Cooper didn't like this either, not one bit, but he wasn't going to let misguided guilt eat away at him. But he wasn't Green. Misguided guilt eat away at himself as in Cooper. I gotta figure out a way to say that better, I think. The man in question blew out a breath, gritting his teeth and rubbing the back of his neck. Coffee. Okay. The man in question, that being Green, blew out a breath, gritting his teeth and rubbing the back of his neck. Anything to relinquish the itchy guilt crawling under his skin. Coop was right. Green knew it, but it was still there. But Green couldn't do anything, and that ate at him like a sore heel. It was torture, sitting and watching someone else went into danger for him and might die. Green may not like Winters. She may be annoying and a liability, but he didn't want her to die. In the video, the elevator floor got hazier, darker as shadows seemingly multiplied, turning into black pits of darkness pulling at her feet. When she opened her eyes after the minute was up, the fear was still there, but so was courage. Determination. It was like a switch had been flipped because she was someone else. She looked down. Then there was a small upward hook of her grin, a squaring of her shoulders, upward tilt of her chin. The vulnerable, scared woman was gone. Winters was ready for whatever came next. The elevator slowed for floor 23, and she vanished just before the doors opened. Ben held his breath, Lauren's breath hitched, Cooper stilled, biting his lip as Green's heart stopped. Two men entered the empty elevator, pistols drawn and held at the ready. It didn't take them long to clear it, lowering the weapons in obvious confusion. As they turned back to look at each other and potentially exit the small space, the doors closed. The men looked up at the camera, around on the ceiling. The taller of the two even checked to see if the ceiling panels had moved at all. None of them seemed to notice the darker than normal shadows in the corners, and when the shorter man stepped where Winters had been standing, he apparently found nothing out of the ordinary. Did she disappear or leave, or how does that work? Lauren breathed into the phone. Cooper gritted his teeth, hating this just as much as Green was. No freaking clue. Invisibility a thing Faye can do, Dom? Ben stuttered slightly, nervous for the missing girl on the camera. I am not entirely certain what all Faye can or cannot do. My few friends try not to talk about that too much. Faye and Shifters kept their magic separate and tended to not fraternize with each other too much, but nobody really knew why. It just was. Floor 24 came and went with no incident. The men got off the elevator slowly, shrugging. Lauren quickly switched feeds to see that the men were talking to 3 other guards on that floor, all of whom were on high alert. The 2 men from floor 23 turned to gesture at the elevator, then all 5 men stared as the elevator closed and kept going up. Lauren flicked to floor 25, seeing more guards posted, weapons at the ready. Floor 26, 27, 28, 29. They all were on high alert, waiting. Well, shit, Coop breathed, scratching his stubbly chin nervously. Can Winters stop a bullet? I mean, ripping a gutter off of an apartment building is one thing, but a bullet? Okay, hang on, I need to make a little note for myself. Lauren switched back to the elevator, and they were all forced to sit and watch as 3 more floors were stopped at without incident. Winters never showed herself, and no guards entered the elevator. It wasn't until floor 29 that she just appeared, still with the same hard look on her face, standing in the same position as if she hadn't moved. Winters glanced at the pulling mass of shadows that had appeared with her, and the little grin got a bit bigger. Her head snapped to the doors as they opened, and it was as if the hounds of hell were unleashed. She took off running as the 3 guards were tackled to the ground, whether by magic or shadow, no one knew. The guns were engulfed by dark blobs, the men taken out by a lethal mass of shadowed claws and fangs. The woman ran with a slight limp, but she was clearly on a mission in those long corridors of black carpet and ivory walls. A door opened ahead of her with more armed guards coming out, but she waved her hand and the door slammed back shut, the guards falling as the door closed with their limbs still in the door jamb. The feed gave no audio, but it was clear that those men had broken bones and plenty of pain. She kept going. Left, right, straight. The floor was a maze with the same corridors with no map, but she somehow knew where she was going. Or did she? Cooper's fingers and eye twitched. He hated this. sitting doing nothing, being forced to watch as someone did this for them, and even though he wasn't letting the guilt get to him, well, it was still a sucky situation. Green was a stony volcano of rage next to him. The beast was seconds from bursting forth, sprinting across that street and wreaking havoc. It was not a good time to be in that apartment right now. Eventually, Winters rounded another corner and a guard came rushing at her, but with a flick of her wrist, he slammed hard into a door, crumbling with a smear of blood, evidence of his head cracking against the door. She stopped, breathing hard, swiping at her own face, but she was turned away from the camera. Then Winters walked inside of that room. Nails clicked at a keyboard, then Lauren heaved a sigh of frustration. I don't believe there is a camera for that room. Does anyone see her? She clicked through the camera feeds, and everyone studied their computer screens hard, urgency crackling in the air. After 2 minutes of frantic searching, they had not found a camera for that room. Either one didn't exist, or they didn't have access, but either way, they had no eyes. Sounds of ceramic sliding across against a countertop echoed through the phone line. Then Ben's voice piped up. Here, let me see if I can find any more. His voice was stronger with a hopeful undercurrent, one that Green didn't dare share. His beast was too close to the surface, primed and ready for a hunt. It prowled in lush green ferns, claws waiting to be set loose. Rip, tear, sunder, kill, protect. We can't, Green had to tell him. No, we hunt. No, we can do nothing. Man was one with the beast, but man also had to be stronger than the beast. Green couldn't lose control. Not now. Everything was too high of a risk for him to lose it over a stressful situation. Beside him, Cooper was having similar struggles, but ultimately, both stayed men. Now the only thing they could do was wait. Waiting was excruciating. Ben typed rapidly on his keyboard, dark windows with glowing lines of code flickering across the screen, only for access denied or just blank squares. Behind these windows was the last camera feed they had seen Winters on. The man was sprawled out in the hallway, but no one came for him, and he did not get up. The door didn't open. Still, they waited, because there was nothing else they could do. Minutes passed. The more time went on, the more anxious everyone got. The tiger roared its disdain in the lush jungle of green soul, fighting his iron restraints with everything he had. Cooper's coyote howled and paced, whining and snapping. Lauren felt helpless, 1,000 miles away in Montana while this was going down in Chicago. Still, Ben kept typing. He kept trying. He didn't want to give up hope. None of them did. Eventually, the door opened and Winter stumbled out, tripping over the body sprawled on the floor and falling into the opposite wall. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, at least until Green's eyes caught up to him. She was alive, at least. Blood matted the side of her face and hairline from a nasty gash on her right temple. She was heavily favoring her left side. It looked like new blood and stains were on her shirt, but it was hard to see because she was wearing a jacket now. The jacket Hale had stolen from her. Disbelief short-circuited Green's brain as he watched her use the wall to walk back the way she came, face twisted in pain. Anger began to thread its way through the shock of it all. Son of a bitch. Cooper bit off, eyes narrowing. Did she just do all of this just for that stupid jacket? He snarled, fists tightening at his sides. She better have that damn device in one of those smelly pockets. Did she use us? Green wondered, anger tinting the edges of his vision red. Did she even want to help us in the first place? No, of course not. She just wanted us to stop meddling in whatever affairs she was watching. Part of him really wanted to believe she had just found the jacket on the way, that she had the device somewhere on her person. Lauren was speaking, but he couldn't hear her questions over the blood pounding in his ears, the murmurs of Cooper beside him, far away, as if he were underwater. Is she going to leave now that she got what she wanted? Green felt taken for a fool, and it both sickened and infuriated him. Kill, rip, tear, maim, the tiger roared, demanding to be let out. Green almost let him. The vampire came out of nowhere, slamming into her from behind and moving too fast for the camera to catch. One moment she was trying to run, heavily favoring her left side as she used the wall for support, and in the next she was lifted by the back of the neck and repeatedly slammed into the wall, face first, as if she weighed no more than a rag doll. The stool clattered to the floor as Green surged to his feet, energy and magic coiled in his veins, heart frozen in a tight vice of fear. Cooper grabbed his shoulder, either to steady himself or to keep Green from tearing out of the apartment. No one knew, but all the four could do was stare at their computer screens in horror. 1, 2, 3. Each slam of Winter's body into the wall worse than the last. This vampire was vicious, cruel, and toying with his prey. Blood smeared the ivory paint, dents in the drywall, creating visceral imagery when he threw her further down the hall. Green's lips curled in hatred as he could do nothing but watch as this vampire straightened his suit jacket, buttoning it once, twice, 3 times, as the vampire ambled slowly to the scrambling woman who cradled her broken hand on her stomach, using the other to scoot backwards slowly. Tears and blood marred her face, and her mouth was parted, clearly trying to gather enough air. "Come on, Winters, do something!" Cooper growled urgently, tightening his grip on Green. "Where were her shadows? The telekinesis or whatever she did. Disappear? Something, anything. Come on!" Green begged silently, begging the young woman broken on the camera. Her chin jerked to the right slightly, and the vampire mirrored that, his head turning to the left as he stalked her down the hall. Then the vampire turned his head back, shrugging and rolling his shoulders and neck like it was a muscle cramp. Her facial expression showed desperation, defeat. "Why isn't she disappearing?" "Why is she not disappearing?" Lauren rasped, fear fighting her vocal cords. "There's more coming, Alpha." Ben's voice spiked, and suddenly more camera windows popped up on the screen. Cooper and Ben Green froze. There were so many. Men were rushing down hallways, upstairs, downstairs, all rushing to her location. Some had guns, and others were just blurs. "Shit. Fuck," Cooper breathed, gripping his hair with both hands. All Green could do was will Winters to get up and do something. Instinct had him reaching out mentally, imagining a tether between the two of them like she was one of them. His. His to protect. His to comfort. His to make strong. "Come on, Winters. Fight back. Fight back." She was still scooting backwards on the black carpet, leaving a messy, darker trail on the surface. The vampire was still slowly walking, like a stroll through a park instead of stalking prey. Did she know there was a near literal army coming up behind her? In front of her? She was surrounded and on the ground. No help in sight. "I am expendable, and you are not." "What is this guy doing?" Ben squeaked, fingers finally still on the keyboard. "Taunting his prey." Green felt ill. There was no angle where they could see his mouth, but Green would have bet a lot of money that the vampire was speaking to her, spiking fear in his prey to make the blood pump harder, sweeter through her bruised veins. The bloodsuckers were cruel, vicious bastards, and Green wanted to tear the heads off of them all. "Come on, Winters, do something. Fight back." He concentrated on her image, on that message, on her, as if she was his pack. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe. She stopped moving backwards, head slouching down onto the floor, wincing as she gave up. "Really? Really? Y'all suck. I just want y'all to know that." Her good hand slid into her jacket, and suddenly a shadow popped up beside the boys with the authentication device they needed. Smeared in blood, sitting on the counter. No. Hey, wait! Cooper grabbed at the shadows as if he could catch them, swearing like a sailor. "Get back there and help her, you asshole!" Lauren spoke up, urgency pitching her voice higher. "What's happening? Green? Cooper?" When Green spoke, he didn't sound normal. Growling snarls of the tiger mixing with his voice. His fingers began to shake and nails turned into claws. He couldn't tear his eyes away from the screen. "She got us the authentication device. It's right here." "What?" Laura gasped. "How?" Ben whispered, voice shaking. Cooper's voice mingled with the frantic coyote trapped within his skin, digging and clawing to be let out. Damn it, Winters, come on, get out of there! Desperation had the lanky man shaking the laptop screen with both hands as if that would do anything. Winters, fight back. Fight. Fight! Green willed, reaching for a link that was not there. Fight. Fight! The vampire got to Winter's feet, taking his sweet time crouching down on her left side. She was just laying there, eyes wide and staring straight up at her soon-to-be murderer. Fight. Fight. Fight! Winters. The sound that came from Cooper's mouth was agony. I never should have let her go in. The vampire's hand gently touched Winter's bloody cheek, caressing her face as she just lay there, one finger trailing through her bloody tear streaks. Fangs grew in Green's mouth when the bloodsucker brought his finger up to taste her blood. The vampire never got to taste the rest. The darkest of shadows conglomerated around the two of them, completely overtaking the camera feed. More and more and more dark blobs grew until the vampire and Winters could not be seen. Sweet, near sickly relief sank Green's stomach, setting his nerves free in jittery hops and skips. Cooper blew out the biggest breath, and with shaky knees he sat on a stool. Only Lauren and Ben continued to hold their breaths, waiting for the shadows to clear. And when they did, the vampire was gone, with not even a single shred of clothing left. Winters was still on her back with eyes closed, as if taking a much-needed breather. She looked fine. Well, not dead at least. Whatever the vampire wanted to do with her, he had been unable to, and for that, Green was unbelievably grateful. Ben spoke cautiously, as if hating to speak in case of cursing the little win the group just had. Alpha Green, they are still coming. Winters wasn't out of the woods yet, and the insidious, slow creeping anxiety returned. Did she know how many people were coming to kill her? Could she sense them as they ran through the maze of corridors, narrowing in on her location? Was an urgent sense of survival striking at her heart and soul to run, to live and fight for another day? All she did was lay there, gulping down breaths of air on the floor. Why isn't she getting up? Lauren questioned, deadly steel laced in her voice. The steel covered concern. Concern for a young woman she didn't even know, but one she wanted to survive. They all wanted Winters to survive this deadly operation. Alpha? Ben's voice was grave, and the flickering camera feeds showed that the cavalry had arrived. They had found her. There were two large groups of both men and vampires on either side of the long corridor. The vampires took the lead, surging with blinding speed. It was as if time both sped up and slowed down, blurs of death passing on the camera feeds, heading straight to the injured woman on the floor. Shadows pooled under her body, yet she did not disappear. Panic spiked Green's blood pressure, heart pounding in his ears as clammy sweat overtook his palms once more. Fight back. Run. Something, Winters. Anything. Just survive. Survive so I can yell at you later. Her right knee bent at a 90-degree angle, her entire leg lifting into the air. Gravity sent her foot pounding square into the carpet, and it was as if a heavy object had landed. A ripple erupted from her foot, going under her prone body, under the carpet, and seams began to tear just below her feet and over her head. The carpet acted as if manipulated by invisible hands, being ripped up and rolled over in an unstoppable wave, hurtling at the army on either side. The blurs got caught first, caught and rolled up like a sushi filling by the black carpet. The rolls were small, but gathered size with terrifying intensity, bodies collecting in the rolling attack, making the carpet sushi bigger. What the hell? Dropped from Cooper's tongue as he and everyone else stared at the camera feeds. Rolling, rolling, rolling. No one managed to escape until a solid minute had passed, when at last the enormous carpet sushi rolls of men and bloodsuckers crashed into a wall, slamming hard enough that drywall scattered and ricocheted off of the surroundings. Nothing moved as the dust settled. The hell was that? The coyote demanded, frantically watching as Winters finally rolled over, body shaking as though she was having a spasm. She got to her knees, head hanging low, to the only scrap of carpet left in the entire hallway. Shaking, she managed to get to her wobbly legs, once again using the wall as a crutch. She began to move again, and it was only then that Green was able to breathe easier. That was magic, Lawrence said after a moment. That was magic. Shock and disbelief coated her voice. Lauren had always known Fae existed, of course, but she had never met one. She didn't know how beautifully destructive they could be, what sort of chaos their magic and prowess could entail. Believing and seeing were two very different things. Winters kept moving, clearly trying to run, but she couldn't, doing a hobbling skip run down the hallway on the now ruined floors. She stopped at a fire alarm, bloodied hands yanking the cover up and handled down before continuing on, going inside a doorway momentarily steeped in shadow. Dominic? Ben didn't need any further instruction, heeding the urgent plea and Green's voice as he flicked through the camera feeds. Again, trying to find the room Winters had disappeared into. The various feeds showed the fire alarm was evacuating people in a myriad of dress, all scrambling and rushing to the stairs to get out of the building. Cooper dashed to the window, looking for any vantage point to the Tronoy Suites Hotel. I'm not seeing any smoke, Green, Cooper said after finding a good spot, peeking through the shadow blinds. Me either, Green called back, squinting at the camera feeds. Ben kept clicking buttons. Lauren spoke over the sounds. Maybe she used that to get people out of the building? Perhaps the vampires will evacuate. The camera feed showed that if there were vampires, they were not outwardly showing themselves evacuating. Green just hoped whatever Winters was doing, she was going to be quick about it and that it actually helped with things. You know, unless she decides to get a new outfit and jewelry, too. Thankfully... We're almost done. Thankfully, Winters was quick, and after only 2 minutes did she exit the room, looking no different than before, but with a new sense of urgency about her. She hobbled faster, going back the way she came before, until a look of panic came over her, and she just disappeared. Dom, what's happening? Green's voice spiked with his heart rate. Ben flicked through the feeds, once again searching for Winters. A fire. Anything. I am not sure. There's no chatter. It's just past 4 a.m. There's an alarm in the system, but no fire anywhere. Boom. A faint sound of a cannon went off, and Cooper's eyes widened out the window. Holy shit. Green? The hotel just blew up. The window blinds almost tore off their hinges as Cooper rapidly pulled the cord to yank them up. What? Lauren gasped through the phone, and that was all it took for Green to dash over to the windows to see for himself. What little breath he had completely escaped him as he simply stared. Okay, mother. The hotel was still standing, somehow. Well, actually... You know what? No. This is a good spot to stop, and when I say a good spot, I mean it's kind of a bad spot. But... yeah, we're going to stop right here. Because we're basically at time, and the next bit I want to be more coherent, because you would think that would be the end of all the excitement. No, that's just part 1. So, yeah, so... what did y'all think of that? Yeah, the boys aren't very happy right now. Lauren is not super thrilled. Ben is not. Nobody's happy. Nobody is happy at all. Winters did technically do the impossible. They do have the authentication device. She is not quite out of the hotel yet. So they think. But one thing I kind of want to point out here, just momentarily for a brief second here, is we haven't had a POV of Winters, so she has her own agendas going on. Obviously, right? This is just from the boys' point of view. And the boys don't know her. They are very frustrated with her, and part of the reason I wrote this prequel is because this incident, the Chicago incident, which I think I'm going to rename it as the Chicago incident. I can still call it Chicago, but like the actual title will be the Chicago incident. It is infamous in the books. It is a big deal. They reference it quite a bit. Everybody does, including Winters, who the books follow mostly. Um, and but that's the thing, like, I needed to write from the boys' point of view, and I thought, what better way to show why they don't really trust her super duper well, especially in the first book, through this story. If I do it from their point of view, you're really only meant to see from Green and Cooper's eyes, and I'm hoping at least that shows she's, like, I want to say she's not trustworthy, and they're conflicted on that. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't know what side she's on. They don't know what she is. Logic dictates don't trust her, and their emotions are saying something else, and it's really confusing, especially for Green, especially right now, because something happened to both him and Winters just before the hotel. There was a change with Winters that we'll touch on later when we get to her singular part, where it's from her point of view. But something happened to Winters in the alley where they had their brief scuffle, and when Cooper bit her, there was a change with her that the boys don't know about. They know that something happened, that she's just a little bit different now, little more weird, but they don't know exactly what happened. And then there's another change that neither of them know about. Her, Winters and Green. Something happened roughly between that incident when they all got back to the apartment and just before she goes into the hotel. Something happened, and there were contextual clues of Winter starting to see it before Green has any idea. But what's about to happen is because of what happened there. That is thunder. Oh, that's not good. That's great. Anyway, I hope this... Fudge, that scared me. That was just my dog, though, I think. Baby, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But I hope that makes sense, and, I hope this was enjoyable, honestly. I am supposed to get this out in a couple hours, because it is Sunday, but I might have to turn my computer off for a while, because I just heard thunder, so I don't know. We'll see. So this might be late, but I hope you guys are having a good day, and that y'all enjoyed this. Let me know what y'all think, if at all. I'm going to try to get back to writing properly. Reading this is definitely helping me, but also, like, I've just been so busy lately with not just even videos, but I'm studying and I'm taking care of my grandmother and taking care of everything, and it's like a lot. And I thought I'd have time to, like, chill out a little bit and get back to my writing mojo, but I realized I'm just gonna have to carve out some time, so I'm gonna try to do like 20 to 30 minutes every day, every 2 days, something like that, whatever I can do. And even write, even if it's just a sentence. But, yeah, technically I did finish a chapter. I finished chapter 14. I wanted it to be longer, even though it's already fairly long, of my first book, of the first book of this series, technically. A Witch's Debt, which tells you what Winters actually is. But, so that's chapter 14 technically done. So I'm actually kind of working on a bit of an interlude from a different POV that may or may not make it into the actual story. But if it doesn't, I kind of have an idea of tagging it on to the end, like additional extra scenes that make sense contextually. I don't know. But yeah, point being, I am writing again. I'm going to try to do that. And I might just go, okay, y'all have to keep me straight a little bit. And this is where I'm at. I might need that. I need a little bit of a cheerleader right now, and I don't know why. I just do. Things are crazy. So yeah, anyway, that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I might just continue with this next week. Do y'all want to see this, or do y'all want to see Tenant's gameplay? Continue or don't? That's the question. We might be able to get through this part, which we're still on that night, next time. That would be pretty cool. But anyway, so thank y'all so very much for listening and for watching. I hope we got a good amount of work done on the blanket, which hopefully I can get started on here shortly, that recording part. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great week ahead, and I hope everybody stays safe. So yeah, have a good one, you guys. Bye!